I'm excited that we got our very first question. And the question is from Romeo54, and they ask if we are RVers. Now, the answer to that question is that we stay in 3 different types of places. We stay in Airbnbs, in hotels, and our RV. And let me tell you what it is that we like about this combination. In Airbnbs, they offer great monthly rates that allow us what it means to experience a place. And oftentimes you can do that within the hub of that location. So if there's like a wonderful, charming main street, you can stay there. Or if there are wonderful attractions, you can be closer to them. And being in an Airbnb, I like that it feels like a home at the same time, rather than feeling like I'm living out of a suitcase. And staying in these places that are located within the hub of a city helps you to absorb all of that nuanced culture that really makes the difference in taking in what it means to live in a place. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention, like, one of the most epic stays that we ever had was this home in Tennessee. And it was this beautiful, stunning cabin. And it had an indoor pool, and downstairs in the basement, it had a movie theater. At the time, my son was very young, and so was his cousin. So they thought it was like the coolest thing ever. And that was, again, another opportunity that we had to live a different reality. And I recall that my father-in-law said something like, because it really was a stunning home, like, wow, could you imagine what it would be like to live here? And my husband replied to him, but you are realizing what it is like to live here, because we are experiencing it. And I think one of the mindset shifts that we've definitely had is that we don't feel the need to own something in order to be able to enjoy it for everything that it has to offer. And when we consider our hotel stays, sometimes we will make an opt-in for this type of a stay because it brings us closer to a type of metropolitan area that is really what we want to see or what we want to experience. There are also added benefits. The one that we just stayed at in Colonial Williamsburg, while it was a part of a hotel, it felt more like an apartment, but it had this like phenomenal indoor pool, heated indoor pool that was all like, it was in an atrium and it was all glass. And it had a wonderful gym. And in addition, there was a game room. And it also brought us close to all of the historical attractions. So it was perfect. And when it comes to staying in our RV, there's an offering that RVs have that a hotel or an Airbnb cannot offer us. And that is our pillow, our towel, and our coffee mug, and the sense of home. I'm sure that you've all experienced it. When you've come back from vacation, as happy as you were to go, you're just so happy to be back home. And the comfort of, I'm back. So when we sold everything to travel full time, I thought that would be the one negative that I would speak of. But I have to say that the RV fulfills that space almost even better than our traditional home did. And I'm not really sure why. I've often thought maybe it's the lack of excess space, right? So there's less negative space. And then the places that we are within the home brings us closer together. And I think that is something that really adds to why I like it here so much. And in speaking to that, there's a quote by Henry David Thoreau that I'll read you. It goes, "A man is rich in proportion to the number of things which he can afford to let alone." He famously lived in a 150 square foot cabin. And he essentially lived in the tiny home before the tiny home was a thing. And RV life, it forces you to keep the things that really matter. And what you're left with is just a cozier vibe that is something that I have always gravitated towards. And the RV brings us closer to nature. And the idea that I could just grab my bike and go, there's just more of a tendency to just leave them on the side of the RV, and you can just grab them and go on a trail very easily. I remember when I first started RVing, when I would post pictures on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, people found it unusual how I had the time to have all of these recreational activities. And it was simply that, my bike didn't get put away. I didn't have to load a car. I didn't have to worry about planning a lunch and filling, why am I escaping this? Wait, it'll come back to me. I'm buffering. Oh my God, what is that word? The box with the ice. For fuck's sake. Hey Siri, what do you call a box with ice that you fill with drinks? A cooler. Oh my God. Okay, so now that I've gotten past that brain block, let me start that again. So yes, my friends would see me posting that I was on my bike on a Tuesday or a Wednesday or a Thursday, and they were wondering how I would be back at work and had time for all of these recreational activities that typically take just too much effort to be able to pepper them in throughout the weekday. And so I wasn't loading them into a car, and I wasn't preparing a cooler. That is the name, a cooler, that escaped me a minute ago, and filling drinks or packing lunches. I had my kitchen right there. And so I wanted to design a life that was effortless in being able to enjoy it. And essentially, the months that I am in the RV, it brings me closer to hikes, closer to waterfalls, closer to nature. It's the time that I get to spend with my horse friends on the farm. And I think it's the time where I feel the most calm. I'm a very social person. My husband was worried when we first decided to come to a farm. However, I have found some peace in the solitude as well, and learning to balance that. But I am a very adaptable person, and I think one of the strengths that I have is that I can see beauty in it all. And in Spanish we say, verle el lado flaco, to see life from the skinny side. And with the RV, I find that we get to enjoy all of the seasons. Growing up in Miami, we only had one season, and that was hot. And hurricane. It was either hot or hot with deadly storms. And we enjoyed it for all it was worth. We did the scuba diving, the snorkeling, the fishing, we did all of that. But we definitely got our fill, and it was time for a change. In exchange, now I go apple picking, and I get to feed horses and spread feed for the chickens. And I've added another dimension to life. It's layers that I think, and the experiences that I've been able to attain. In embracing many forms of living, it's given us the opportunity to know what it's like to live in a condo on the beach, or a cabin in the woods, or the idea of a houseboat on a river. Just being able to live out new realities. And I think I'll end it here with a quote from Anthony Bourdain. He says, "Travel changes you. As you move through this life and this world, you change things slightly. You leave marks behind, and in return, life and travel leaves a mark on you." Thanks for watching. Please follow and like. It helps other people find our channel. Bye for now.